What is Purple Power? Someone asked me that question last night, and Purple Power was the spirit of this channel the day that I birthed it on April 25th, when I understood that people were not getting money for the first stimulus package. And this was CARES Act 1 money, it was EIDL, PPP, it was the oncoming of PUA launch on April 28th. And I understood they were not getting money they were entitled to, and no one was helping them. And so I birthed this channel for the purposes of trying to help people get their money that they're entitled to. And there was no name for it then. It was just, here I am. Here I am, tune in. And slowly over time, I did other things, and I launched what was called a private for EIDL on Instagram. And I said, you know what, the deal with the private is that if I help get you a loan, then you help other people do the same thing. And people started helping one another, and it started to snowball. And that was the spirit of this channel. And I continue to tell people, help one another. No one's helping us. We need to help one another. Then in one particular day, a few weeks ago, I wore a purple shirt. Sort of like this one, but another purple shirt. And someone called me that purple person. And I was like, I'm not purple. And then another person called me that purple person. I was like, okay. And then they started saying, we love you, purple person. I'm like, so at that point I said, okay, Purple Power. I didn't know what it was or what I was referring to, but I was referring to this, and suddenly it caught on. But then government started screwing us over. And shortly over time, we weren't getting what we were entitled to. We were promised stimulus checks. We were promised hazard pay. We were promised FPUC. We were promised EIDL grants. We were promised all these things, and we weren't being given them. And it's looked like everyone was becoming so partisan in government, Republicans, Democrats, they were making every excuse to not give us anything and give themselves money. And hence the Purple Power movement started. Yesterday, someone said it's not a movement, it's a revolution. Perhaps it is, but a lot of achievements have been reached by the Purple Power to date. One has been getting Steve Mnuchin to agree to the Problem Solvers bill. Two has been getting Steve Mnuchin not to agree to Nancy Pelosi's bill. Three has been getting fellow Democrats to tell Nancy Pelosi, no, we're not voting in favor of her bill, and voting against her own bill, a show of defiance of her own caucus, which she said was aligned, which was actually maligned because they were not in alliance of her bill, and then getting them back into negotiation table after she said, you know what, I'm done, I'm about to fly home, and she was about to fly home. Tonight, and then yesterday, the spirit of the Purple Power exploded like I've never seen before. And this evening, it's completely not over. It's far from over, and it's ramping up like you've never seen before. And this is a continuation of what is coming. Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Purple Power. And so go to the front channel and subscribe on a night in which there's a lot of things going on. Good evening, and thank you for joining me on Evenings LALATE every night at 6:30 Pacific Standard Time. Starts with a check and then goes to Purple Power. So go to the front channel, subscribe as we try to approach, I think it's like, was it 290? I can't remember. Let's get for 300 next. Also, like this video. Tonight, there's a major set of developments in Purple Power, and I want you to understand where we're going and what's happening. Last night, you absolutely were on fire, and you achieved another level of achievements past what I even discussed in that opening remarks. After the president made those statements last night saying that, I'm calling off negotiations for second stimulus bill, which is not executive order, you, before I was even recording, before I even had to say a word, knew exactly what was the next line of attack, because this is what I had imparted to you for over 2 weeks, and that we as a family have been doing. The Purple Power family immediately started pushing the president, said, hey, do executive orders. Hey, do executive orders. Hey, you can't say no stimulus to us before the election. If you really say no stimulus to us at all, which he did not say, but that was what the response was, well, we're voting you out. We had already said no incumbents are going to get reelected because no incumbents have given us stimulus. And within hours, the president changed his story. Within hours, he said, you know what? I want a $1,200 stimulus check to go out to American citizens. Oh, my goodness. Who do you think got that for us? Purple Power. Then he was focusing on airlines. Guess who was the first to talk about the importance of putting the airlines into the stimulus package? But he did talk about a standalone bill. Well, he's never always perfect. Tonight, the situation is even different than even yesterday because Steve Mnuchin called Nancy Pelosi to start talking about something stimulus, not substantive great conversations to ride home and celebrate at all about, but they did talk. And so the push for the Purple Power is even more apparent than ever. But tonight it might be the most important push because of what some analysts are predicting might be happening. Understand this recording is made at about 5:42 Pacific Standard Time, and within a few minutes the Harris Pence debate will have begun. And at the time of you seeing this video, it may be running opposite the debate. What some analysts are now saying is that the Trump administration and the Trump re-election campaign is desperate for a win tonight, is desperate to have a positive outcome from tonight's debate because they need to reset their election campaign, which is absolutely imploding left and right. He's way behind in the polls across all major states. He's 14 to 10% in all major states. He's losing. He's way behind in swing states that he dominated over, 4 years ago. COVID has not done well for him in the polls, and now the inability to get stimulus relief is also not clear. So if that's true, if tonight's debate does not go as well for Pence as the administration would have hoped, what should the Purple Power be doing? Push for executive orders. Mr. President, things aren't going too good. Executive orders. You want to get reelected? I think you need some executive orders right now. I think you need some executive orders. How's your evening going, Mr. President? How about some executive orders? I would really like a check of your name on it, Mr. President. How about some executive orders? Nancy Pelosi appeared on The View today, and she said that all the president wants to do is send out stimulus checks with his name on it. Just fine with us. I don't care if Daffy Duck's name is on it, just so long as we have the stimulus check in our hand. I mean, it can be Elmer Fudd's name on the check. I don't care, as long as it doesn't bounce. I mean, it can't be Nancy's check. But so long as it doesn't bounce, who cares? But that's quite interesting, because she says he wants to do just checks. That was what the Crush the Virus line is about. That she says he doesn't want to do anything about the virus. He just wants to send out checks. Okay, well, that's fine. She's basically saying he wants to send out checks with his name on it to get himself reelected. In fact, if you don't recall, her HEROES Act bill has a provision in there that the stimulus checks cannot have his name on it. Petty. But we're opportunistic. Send out stimulus checks. You can have Mike Pence's name on it. We're perfectly fine with that. Now, the incredible great news is that you should also be pushing for executive order for FPUC. The president overnight said in those two tweets, well, there's $28 billion sitting around here, and there's, what was it? I can't remember. This sitting around there. There's $160 billion that's sitting around on top of the $300 billion that he identified 2 weeks ago. There's enough money for another round of LWA. Send it out, Mr. President. Do executive orders. Send it out. It's as simple as that. That's Purple Power for you. Tonight, there's so much other things that is going on. Grants. There are grants that are launched across the country in all jurisdictions that I talk about on a daily basis. You need to go to Google News. You need to look for grants in your city and county and look for them. They're being announced daily. Next, EIDL loans. If you've not gotten an EIDL loan, please go get one. I had a nice viewer in, I think on the Pelosi versus Mnuchin video, I think it was. He said, we're farmers. I think he said Arizona. We're farmers in Arizona, and we all tune in and we love watching. Well, I appreciate that. And my immediate response was, did you get an EIDL loan? That was my initial response. I got a lot of farmers from Texas EIDL loans. They're very, very dear to my heart because they were my earliest viewers. I remember them by name. I asked them what they what they farm, not that I know all these farming terms, but I'm like, go get yourself an EIDL loan. I don't know why a lot of people have not gotten EIDL loans that should get it. If you're an independent contractor, if you're a sole practitioner, if you're an Uber Lyft driver, if you're a Grubhub driver, if you are Airbnb operator, if you're a trucker, if you're a farmer, if you have your own maintenance company, if you're a gardener and have your own, Schedule C, anything that's Schedule C or your own corporate tax return, go get an EIDL loan. It's very easy. SBA.gov. SBA.gov. Look for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Go and apply. It's very simple. If you need help, go to the pinned comment of this video and find a mentor in the private. They will help you, guide you through the application. It's very simple. With the EIDL loan, you can see the money within a few days, and it's really helpful. It's based upon your 2019 gross revenue minus cost of goods sold divided by 2. So if you're an Uber Lyft driver and made $8,000 last year and only cost you, $100 to run your business, $8,000 divided minus $800 divided by 2 is about $4,000. You'll get a $4,000 loan. It does not need to be repaid in the first year. There's no interest or principal repayment. It's very, very needed for people. Next, voting out incumbents. Gotta vote these incumbents out. I mean, what are we doing here? All incumbents need to be gone. Finally, need for stimulus. As I'm itching again, how come on evenings LALATE I always itch, or at least on Purple Power I always itch? Need for stimulus. This is a very good interview tonight by restaurateur Danny Meyer with CNBC. He said that tonight that the dining industry needs stimulus. Now, I have certainly said on this channel, I'm tired of hearing about restaurants. All I hear about is restaurants, as though they're the only industry impacted by COVID-19. But his comment was very interesting. We cannot re-employ people if we go out of business until the election is not sufficient. He says that this is a crushing blow. I think that the country needs to understand that this is not an industry with 600,000 members. We're too broad to fail. We're not like the auto industry or the airline industry where you get your arms around just a small handful of carriers. He's basically saying it's hard to lay off people and rehire them. Let me go to some of your 1,400 comments from last night. Weldon, this is ridiculous. People are dying, and we're waiting for something that's just not working. Robert, time to give up and vote against all those who are in office and for re-election. Amen. All incumbents need to go. Hannah Cat, he'll reverse his position, I bet. She's right, he already did. I bet every Republican that's facing a re-election is calling him and freaking out. Well, Susan Collins said she did. Susan Collins, who didn't do much of anything for anyone. She's that senator who's a Republican who's really tight on money. She called him up and said, what are you doing? I'm like, Susan, you didn't give us any money either. He took the credit blame for ending the stimulus talks. How fast can he backpedal? He'll backpedal. Jeff Levitin. Republicans and Democrats are nothing more than a pair of unfit parents in a custody battle. Love that. Nolan. They should all lose their salary until they actually do their job. There's a bill about that. And I was going to do that bill, but, I've covered a lot today. Nancy Hill, they need to live with no money for a month and see how it's like. Kerry, exactly. People aren't going to forget what he said. He said that he didn't agree he had the money to executive orders, so do what he really thinks people are going to do. Amen. I mean, this president said he was going to do executive order. Well, do the executive order. Stop talking about going to do the executive order. Do the executive order. I don't know what you're thinking, sir. I think it's just totally crazy to not do what you said you're going to do. Pete Ellison, all these government jerks will suffer the consequences of inaction on 11/3. I hope so. Denise, I agree. Vote out all incumbents. Amen. Start making pictures. Start making images for Twitter. Start making as many images. Purple Power. Incumbents out. Incumbents out. Nikki Noodles. All these people are so out of touch with reality. Golden Eye. I wish Trump would step up with an executive order. Thomas, winter's coming. We need the money now. Boy, when winter hits, oh my God. Hey, LALATE, I want to say, if you weren't with us to make us understand exactly what this is and what that meant, meaning stimulus, eviction, and certain packages we would be lost and taken advantage of. I don't actually know what other people with the people power feel, but I think you've something else. Thank you, TV. I really appreciate that. A lot of this stuff is very confusing. Even when I report an eviction moratorium is announced, an executive order, I assume it is what the president announced. The president says, "Hi, I have an executive order for eviction moratorium." Okay. Well, I'm the one who goes and looks at it and reads it. I'm like, it's not in there, Mr. President. Needless to say, 3 days later, the rest of the reporters come out from, broadcast news like, you didn't put it in there, Mr. President. And then CDC comes out with an executive order that is so inherently confusing. So someone has to explain that to you as well. Things are not, these people make things very complicated. Sometimes you wonder if they're doing it on purpose. 200 man, Trump is on Twitter going crazy. I see all his tweets, and I see your tweets as well. If there was a night to subscribe, it's tonight. Go to the Friends channel, subscribe. Purple Power is, as I said in the opening remarks, is a community that really tries to help one another. When I birthed this channel, and I was dealing with EIDL, PPP, and PUA, those were very different types of people. I mean, EIDL, some of them were sole practitioners. Some of them were small business owners, husband and wife and maybe one employee. Some of them were people that had maybe 10 employees. All very, very different. And then when I did PUA and UI, I was doing people who were just, a W-2 employee. I work at Macy's. I work at, the auto parts store. I've dealt with all different types of people. And when I got into this arena and I started doing stimulus, no one was talking to people who are on SSDI and SSI and Social Security and railroad benefits. I was the first one and said, hey, you're entitled to a stimulus check. And the reason why you didn't get them on the first time around was because of a very bad provision in the bill that said no adult dependents would get stimulus checks. So, we have a lot of different people in this family, and that's what makes us so unique. We're a unique group of people that come together to try to get to the finish line. Go to the Friends channel, subscribe. Really appreciate you for being part of this family and keeping it positive, keeping it motivating, keeping it focused, and getting educated along the way. Also like this video. Coming up tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, is Mornings LALATE. Tune in, make that a big hit. The algorithm has been a little screwy today and a little screwy yesterday. And join that, and then join that for day 3 of 28. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay with LA for more.